If you have a question for Dr. Donna, please do leave it on my page and I will be happy to answer the question for you. Everybody, welcome to another episode of Talking with Dr. Donna. I'm your host, Dr. Donna White-Carey, and our show is Talking with Dr. Donna. Thank you so much for keeping your appointment tonight. You have an appointment every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. with your doctor. This is our time to chat, to really learn something new. If you are not already a subscriber, I'm going to encourage you to go on over to YouTube. If you're watching on any other channel, go to YouTube, go right there where it says subscribe, click it, hit it, subscribe, and then hit the bell icon right next to it. So every time I go live, you get a notification. All right? So as you know, our mission here on Talking with Dr. Donna is to revolutionize healthcare, because we're going to be thinking about it in a different way, in a holistic way. So revolutionizing healthcare to think about generational health. That is my mission, to build generational health. And we do that by thinking of our spiritual health, our mental and emotional health, our physical health, and our environmental health. Because I firmly believe if we think about all four of these pillars and we put effort and energy into each generation and each of these pillars, we can end the cycle of premature death in the Black community. That's my mission, and I believe it. I am claiming it right now that we are going to make a difference. This is how you can keep in touch with me, at my Dr. Donna on Instagram, Talking with Dr. Donna on Twitter. You just hit me up. Let me know what you think about the show. Let me know what you're thinking about your health. If you have any questions, you can always let me know. As always, we're going live, and we're live right now. Hello, all y'all folks out there. Hey, my aunt is joining from North Carolina tonight. Hi, Auntie. We are going to take questions live right here because this is a fantastic opportunity, because this is a great topic tonight. But little teaser, before we get there, before we start talking to our wonderful guests, we are going to talk just a little bit about some things that you need to know that's going on this week. So let's start. Number one thing that you need to know this week is about some free stuff. You guys like free stuff, right? You want to know some free stuff? So as you probably have heard, the government is sending out free tests. But before we get there, let's do masks. So we have some free masks. You are able to get 3 free N95 masks from a pharmacy, and this is nationwide. Most of them are at Walgreens or CVS pharmacies. They should hit the pharmacies by Friday, and you should be able to get 3 free masks per person. So there's the website for you to get more information. I'm not quite sure which pharmacies here in the Bay Area are going to have them just yet, but I'm sure as we, go and look around, people are going to find out, and you can let people know where those masks are. If I find out where to get the free masks, I'll let you know. But Walgreens and CVS are supposed to get their shipment starting on Friday. So 3 free N95 masks. And again, if you missed my episode talking about masks, you can go back and take a look at what type of masks you need to wear to make sure that you are protected. Okay? Second thing you need to know is that there's free COVID tests. So you probably saw this already. It came out last week. You can send an email or go on to covidtest.gov. and you can register for 4 free tests. Now, I got mine today. I went home and they were sitting on my porch. So you can get 4 free tests to test for coronavirus. These are antigen tests. They're pretty good, not as good as a PCR test, but that requires you to go through a laboratory. This home test allows you to do it at home, and it's pretty good about picking up whether or not you have coronavirus. If you don't have access to a computer or can't get on the internet, then you can call. This is the phone number to call, 1-800-232-0233. You can call and get your free test, all right? That's number 1. Number 2 that you need to know this week is that there are a bunch of new medications and treatments for coronavirus that you can get outside of the hospital. Now, this is important because, as you know, we have some treatments inside the hospital, but we now are trying to prevent people from getting to that stage where they get so sick that they go to the hospital. So these medications are now available. They are available in very limited portions, okay? And only some places and some clinics have them, but the key is that they are available. Now, you may not know how to pronounce these medications, but write them down, okay? So that if you get sick or one of your loved ones gets sick, you can ask the doctor, hey, how can we get Paxlovid, right? How can we get that? Because like I said, it's available here in the county. You don't need to know the doses. You don't need to know how to get it. All you need to know is that if you have somebody who is sick and they are within the first couple of days of being sick with coronavirus, that there are these new medications to help people prevent you from going to the hospital, primarily for high-risk folks, okay? So again, all you need to know is there are medications that can help. Write them down, all right? And then the third and final thing that you need to know as we talk about tonight is you need to know that coronavirus is still killing people. You need to know that, and you need to understand that. It's not time to let down your guard. There are over 1 million kids in the last 2 weeks who have tested positive for coronavirus. 1 million. That is amazing. Those are the new cases, not total cases. Our total cases of kids is over 10 million kids who are tested positive for coronavirus. That 1 million is just within the last 2 weeks. We have on average in this country about 2,300 people still dying a day. 2,300 people dying a day. That's more than 1 person per minute dying because of coronavirus. It's not time to let down your guard. You need to still wear your mask, double mask, or wear an N95 mask. Social distance, and this is the hardest thing for kids, to be able to social distance. But you have to talk to your kids about social distancing. You have to talk to each other about, it's not time to give me a hug just yet or to shake my hand. We've got to remain diligent because right now it's not time to let our guard down. Okay? All right, so those are updates and our need to knows for this week. Let's get into some Black Boy Joy. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about our 2 guests that are going to be here tonight. And this topic came up for me because I have a son who's featured right there on this slide. And in thinking about summer programs, I've been looking for, what he's going to do in the summer. And there's a lot of programs available for our young girls. And I think that's amazing because I have a daughter as well. But as I kept looking for programs for Black boys, they were few and far between. And I said, you know what? That is a problem. We need to make sure that we take care and lift up our Black boys. Yes, we have challenges with them, but we also have some triumphs, and we also have to start advocating for them, for opportunities for them not to be left behind. So tonight I have with me some excellent guests that I am going to introduce and bring them on, and we are going to have a conversation. So first, Kevin Jennings Jr. I know you don't put that on your title, Kevin, but it's Junior. He is the program manager for African American Male Achievement, which is a part of the Oakland Unified School District's Office of Equity. He has over 10 years of education with 6 years of teaching and aims to engage, encourage, and empower all African American males in the Oakland Unified School District. Papa, he's got 4 kids. Lord help us. 2 girls and 2 boys. So welcome, Kevin, to Talking with Dr. Donna.
Hey, Dr. Donna. How are you?
Hey, Kevin. Good. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Our next guest is Delshawn Armstrong. He is also a proud father. He has 2 girls and 2 boys, and he has been working for Oakland Unified School District for 7 years. He is a facilitator in the African American Male Achievement Program for the last 3 years, and he supports Black boys at Manzanita Seed and Community School. So welcome, Delshawn.
Welcome. Nice to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you. All right. Thank you both for being here tonight. So we've got 2 brothers. As always, people, I'm hearing a little background noise. I'm not sure where that is. So if you have noise, let's mute. Great. Perfect. As always, we have live. We're live because I really believe in the ability for people to ask questions. So for you out there who are watching, if you have questions about challenges, triumphs, or advocacy for our young Black boys, put it in the chat and we will try to get to you. But let's start out. So what do you guys do in the African American Male Achievement Program? What is that program about, and what do you do in that program?
Well,
I'll start with you, Kevin. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll kick it off. I am currently the program manager. I actually got my start in teaching with African American Male Achievement maybe about 8 years ago. The program has been around for 10 years, since 2010 when the office started, led by Chris Chapman. It's an initiative for the Oakland School District to support African American males. We have some of the highest statistics that are definitely a deficit in the district. And so the district's response to that was to create an initiative to support African American male students, to begin to put Black male teachers in front of them, to put curriculum in front of them that is about them, and honestly to change the narrative. And so I have been the program manager for the past 3 years now. And really during this time, during the pandemic, it's been a tough time supporting our young kings, but we're making it through, and we still have high hopes for them and what they have for us. Delshawn is one of our teachers at our elementary school, Manzanita. I'm letting him talk about himself. I mean, he brings so much to our program. I love working with him.
Great, thank you. Delshawn, you want to talk a little bit about how you teach within this program?
Yeah, so basically, like Kevin was saying, we're coming in to clean up all the toxic things that are going on in the public school system, because we do understand that it wasn't made for our African American children. So it's basically us just going in there and reprogramming and making sure that the non-African American teachers know how to deal with our kids, our boys especially.
Yeah, I want to ask you to expand on that a little bit, because I think I know what you mean by the school system not being made for our Black boys, but I want to hear from the 2 of you. What do you think, how do you think the schools are not made for Black boys? In what ways?
Well, I'll start by, I think, not even thinking, but knowing that society has put this stigma on Black males and Black boys to not even humanize them, to not give them the opportunity to grow, to not think that they actually came to school for their education, when they may be going through some things, when they may need you to show up in a different way for them to actually get involved in what you're teaching. So when we look at the historical way that schools have supported and shown up in Black boys, they have suspended them at the highest rates. They have written referrals for them at the highest rates. They have passed them along throughout the system without making sure that they're at reading level, making sure that their attendance is even at a good level too. And so I think, our program came along to address that these things are important to our students. We know that they're important to our students. We know that they're important to our families, and we have to begin to address them and correct the system and really treat the toxic ecosystem that is serving our young fish, as we like to put it in a, complex way.
Nice. Delshawn, you want to answer that question?
Yes, and what I've noticed is that the public school system comes from a disciplinary type of approach when dealing with our kids. And at the same time, I know me when I was little, there was things going on, just at home that I really couldn't talk to nobody about. And, you would think a counselor would be able to help you, but like I said, they come with a disciplinary approach. So I'm glad that our program is integrated in schools because we take the time to really understand and get to know the kid. Of course, we're all mandated reporters, but the class size are so full and they don't have time to really focus in on what the child's learning style is. So yeah, that's just pointing out those things and just being that support for them is real major.
Yeah. Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to also add and just piggyback off of what Delshawn was saying from the discipline lens. What we've noticed is that schools would view students, and this is through actual like surveying and talking with students before the actual Office of African American Male Achievement was created, but students felt like they were being viewed in a negative way. And so something that we offer from our program is to look at Black boys from an asset-based lens and not a deficit-based lens. So looking at our Black boys as the most important assets here, like you are important to our society, you are important to our community. Even if you're showing up this way, I know that there is something positive about you, regardless of how you're showing up. So I just want to throw that in there that we should be viewing our boys from an asset-based lens and not from a deficit lens, because that is, pushed by mainstream media, by mainstream society as well, too.
Yes, I love that. Look at it from an asset lens, not a deficit lens. That's good. So what are some of the challenges, though, that you're seeing from the young boys as they're coming to school? What challenges are you seeing in the school system that you are able to address that may not be able to address in other programs?
Well, I think
For me,
the first thing that we address, and with our curriculum, which is called the Kepler curriculum, which is about transformation, is really addressing this dominant mainstream media typecast and pigeonhole that they have labeled our Black boys. And so offering them their positive historical lens and offering them a different version of how they can view themselves. So I think the first challenge that we would see, that I've seen mostly, is competing with this dominant image or this dominant ideal about Black boys and how they should be, how they should carry themselves. And really, as family members and as parents, we have to begin to try to change that narrative and try to control, what our boys are consuming, so that they can, form a positive identity about themselves. So that would be the first thing that I would say. But I'll let Delshawn get some in there.
Yeah.
I just noticed a lot of hurt fatherless boys. You know what I'm saying? And once they get to know me, then they open up and just, tell me things, and some of it be kind of heavy. And I just pray and I ask the Lord, what do I how do I respond to this? And, and he told me, respond to it like like you wish you would have had somebody when you was their age, when you didn't know your dad, never seen him before, but you knew you had one. You just never seen him, didn't know no information about him or anything. So just
Hmm.
addressing that type of trauma, and just generational curses that I know that we spread on our children without even knowing it. And I'll tell you a couple.
Hmm.
What goes on in this house, stay in this house. You're the man of the house, when there's when there's no man, so those type of things that we say to our children, not knowing that it's a part of generational curses, even how we chastise our children. I know I remember getting the switch, picking the switch off the tree when I was little,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I seen Roots, I was putting it two and two together, like, dang, I'm getting
Right.
beat like
Right.
Chicken George or Kunta
Yes.
Kinte. You know what I'm saying? So it's just breaking those things.
Yeah, and you're right. That's why we talk here about generational health and trying to offset some of those generational curses, right? Generational curses, generational bad habits. And I always say, like, when you know better, you do better. And so our previous generations didn't know, but now we do. So how do we start to do better? What are some of the ways in which parents can raise Black boys better than the previous generation?
It's nothing wrong with taking a parenting class. It's nothing wrong with, just reading different things and just understanding that everything your parent taught you wasn't 100%.
Right.
When you're grown, you got to research and do things for yourself. So that
Hmm.
was one of my things. With my older children, I realized that I made some mistakes, and you can see it, as they're adults, and, they come into you with issues, or like you said, when you know better, you do better. So then you're in a mind of reflection. Like, wow, I was maybe too hard on that, or maybe I whooped when I should have just talked. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Things like that.
Yeah. Kevin, you want to answer that?
I definitely do, and I'm thinking about my own perspective as a parent, and just, I mean, piggybacking off of taking a parenting class,
Yeah.
picking up a book, even as parents, and reading about how to support our children and how to help them grow in different ways, has been something exciting for me, right now with my own children as well, just figuring out different ways in order to raise our children, and knowing that I have the ways that my parents raised me, but also, telling myself, like, this is a job. This isn't something that I've been doing my whole life. So I should be researching. I should be learning. But something that I think is important too is, introducing your kids to life. So much of, I think children now these days are spending a lot of independent time. They're on their cell phones, they're on their video games, they're being left aside, and we should be taking them out to restaurants with us. We should be taking them traveling with us to go see different places, even if it's just to Reno. They get to say, "Oh,
Mm.
I've been outside of Oakland. I've been somewhere." Taking them to colleges, even just to walk through local campuses that are near your home, introducing them to people that may do trades, whether it's, being a barber or being a plumber. We have to introduce our young boys to life as well, so that they can have examples, so that they can have options instead of what's being fed to them, constantly through whatever different channels that they may be doing. So I definitely think introducing them to life should be our main goal as parents.
Yeah, that's good. I just want to take a quick break and just say, if you have a question, please retype your question. Someone is hacking into this live broadcast on our platform, and so they keep crashing the page. So I'm sorry, I may have lost your question. So if you had a question, please do retype it so that I can actually ask the question again.
I can see some of the the questions
You
as
can
well.
see some? Okay,
Yeah.
good. So there was something that you said I wanted to say about parents, because in parenting, one of the things that I know that I've learned as a parent is that when my stress level is high, I'm not as good of a parent, right? So when your stress level is high, parents, we have to recognize when we're at that tipping point, right? And so before you start to scream, go into the bathroom. That's my office. That's my home office. I go into the bathroom, close the door, just take a moment to take some deep breaths so that you can come out and deal with your children. I have to remind myself that my children did not ask to be here. I brought them into the world, right? I wanted them. And so that means that I should love and care for them in a way that is not harmful. So just a reminder to parents to take a moment and breathe, because yes, they can test you and push that very last button, but you have to calm down before you start to discipline. Have those conversations. All right, so we talked a lot about some of the challenges, and what are some of the challenges that you're seeing in school now with potential, remote or distance learning and then coming back on campus? How has that been particularly challenging for our Black boys?
So I oversee maybe about 16 or 17 school sites in Oakland where our program is at. And something that we've been encountering is just this low re-engagement from our young males. And so when thinking about the pandemic, and it was the students' job to get on the computer, to listen to their teachers for hours. And, that was such a new experience because we haven't taught our kids to really learn through technology. They know how to entertain
Mm-hmm.
themselves. They know how to go find what they want, but to actually sit there and learn, um, I believe a lot of students have lost that engagement or that importance into education. So coming back into school and having almost a year and a half away from actual, routine and practice and learning, we're seeing low re-engagement from a lot of students. And just with the pandemic and how it continues to swell, students could be in school. Sometimes they're out of school and they're missing lessons too. And so we're finding ways to try to combat the absenteeism of our students, and trying to
Yeah.
re-engage them too. So,
Yeah.
and I know Delshawn can speak more to it because he's actually at the school working with kids every day.
I would say, I'm noticing like a lot of pent up tension. There's a lot of
Mm.
fighting, um, and they're kind of being lazy with reading and just even turning homework in. So it's like
Mm.
I created for February for Black History Month. I'm starting a homework drive at my school, so I'm encouraging them to take 5 for the homework drive, 5 minutes of extra reading, something, 5 minutes less on the game, Fortnite or whatever. Just
Mm-hmm.
try to so we can get caught up, and hopefully in February that'll be the highest homework turn in rate. So I'm praying. But yeah, that's what I'm doing at my campus.
All right, I like that. I might have to do that for my own son.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the common mistakes that you see parents making in raising Black boys to be Black kings, as you call them, Kevin? What are some of the common mistakes that you see parents making?
Um, I think one common mistake would be, using the excuse that they're boys. Oh, they're boys. Boys would be boys, and using that excuse for their behavior or maybe their lack of engagement, or lack of trying. And something that just came to me was that we as parents, as a community, have to affirm our children of who they are before they step out into the world.
Hmm.
And so we, cannot allow them to, um, we cannot allow them to hold themselves to a lower standard when they should be where they are. So I would say,
Right.
using the excuse that boys are, though they're a boy, or, using that for an excuse is a common one. And then also too, I'm gonna go back to technology. And I love technology, but allowing our children to have this free reign to introduce their own selves into the world,
Mm.
and not knowing what they could be, taking in, who they're interacting with. And so it should be our job to know, who are our kids' circle, what's on their mind, what do they aspire to do. And so I definitely think monitoring cell phones and technology will be something that should be more of a priority for parents.
Great. Delshawn?
I would say, one of the things that I think the parents are making a mistake is just the basic, the common courtesy, the excuse me, the thank you, ma'am, and things like that. That's what we learned when we were younger. But these days, it's like you don't see none of that. You
Mm.
see parents saying that's not. They tell the child that teacher ain't your parent. I'm your parent. If they say something to you, tell them to call me.
Mm.
Stuff like that. It's like you're setting your child up not to have respect and not to submit to authority or whatever the case may be.
Right, right. And I know as a mother, I'm going to tell on myself, we love to coddle our babies. Those are our babies. We love.
Mhm.
I see you, Delshawn. Those boys are our babies, and because my husband is a little bit harder than I am, he'll say, stop coddling him. Like, let me give him kisses. Let me give him hugs. And I know that that's okay to do that. But I know there also is going too far in coddling our kids. Where's that balance? How do we as parents find that balance?
Mm. Yeah, I know it's hard because like
It's
when my
hard.
daughter give me those little boo
Um,
boo eyes, I just fall. I don't know. That's a tough one. I can't
you
even
know,
speak on it.
it's hard, and especially, depending on the dynamic, if it's a two-parent home or if it's a single-parent home. And being in a two-parent home, as the man, I have to step in and say, hey, look, he's going to get older. We have to hold him to a standard. And, speaking from my own experience and how I've been held accountable, I'm like, let me hold him accountable. Let's separate a little bit. But for a lot of the situations out there for single parents, I think, also holding yourself accountable. Who's in your circle? Who can you have to be a part of your child's village, a part of your son's village?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's an important thing too. If, I know a lot of women have raised great young men, have raised strong young men, have raised respectable young men, and say, we can do it on our own. And we thank you for holding us down, but also put somebody else, find a positive male model, find a positive male role model, find those organizations that are out there. I wrote a list of organizations down, and I can, if I can chat it or some way, I'll add it on there. But find those organizations to have your son around some positive male role models.
Yeah, one of my friends who has two boys, said one time we were having a conversation, and I can't remember. I must have said something about disciplining my daughter differently than I disciplined my son, and she said something to me that I have never forgotten. And she said, "Be careful that you don't raise your daughter and love your son." And I have never forgotten that the discipline is important for the boys, even more so, I think, in this day and age than the girls, that you equally discipline, equally hold accountable, equally support and love.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so as parents, how can parents advocate for their young Black boys in school? What can we do as parents to help make sure that our kids are getting the education that they need to get? If they don't have a program like yours in the school, and they don't have a lot of Black males in the school, how can we advocate for our kids?
Showing up is the most important thing. Like, schedule some off days, to where you can come to your child's school unexpectedly. That's how I kept my children on their toes. They didn't know which day I was coming, so they had to be on their toes. So either I'm coming to discipline or I'm coming to reward you. Because I'm going straight to your killer, and them off days and them tardies better match my book. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
'Cause I used to tell my children, I don't even go to work every day. So if you need a day off or something, ask me. We can schedule that. So that day off needs to match my day off.
Mm.
That tardy needs to match my tardy. Because whether I had you leaving late or we got held up that morning, I'm marking it down on my calendar. So now when I pop up at your school, I'm going straight to your counselor's office with my paper, and we're matching things. If anything on that paper is different than what I got, there's consequences and repercussions. So they understood that. So that's why I got straight A's and B's, no C's. I did
All
not
right.
accept any C's because C's is just the beginning of you failing.
Yes. Kevin, you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I'm thinking of one thing that I wrote down in preparation was parents joining your school's SSC, which is a school site council. Every school has those.
Mm.
And they're always looking for parents. It's not made up of a lot of parents, it's actually a small team, but they're always looking for parents, especially parents of color, because the SSC oversees a funding source at the school that is mainly for Black and brown children. So you can decide if your school should put aside $50,000 for the next school year so that they can
Mm.
hire off-campus tutors to come tutor after school, or hire a math enrichment program, or maybe a literacy program. So I would definitely encourage, and I know my office would love to hear me say this, but finding out how you can join the SSC, still joining PTAs after school and making your voice heard. And a lot of the schools that I'm at as well, we often advocate parents and work with a lot of parent groups that are like an affinity group. So find some other Black moms and start a Black
Mm.
Fathers Club at your kid's school. And I don't know if you guys remember that story that went viral last year about the fathers that all came up to the high school when
Yes.
there was a bunch of fights. But we got to rally together. So
Mm-hmm.
talk to the parents, and like Brother Delshawn said, we can schedule time off for everything else. Let's schedule some time up to show up at our kids' school, to volunteer at the school, even if you help them with COVID tests, which I know some people may not want to do. But showing up at the school, having your face there, seeing how the environment is, checking to see, are people acknowledging your children? Is the principal acknowledging you, even on the campus? And finding out if that school site is where your child is supposed to be. So those are some way I think parents can advocate within the schools outside of
That's great.
the school board meetings.
Oh, yeah, that's good. All right, there's a lot of questions in the chat. I want to make sure to get to some of them. One is about Black male teachers and why there are not more Black male teachers, particularly in middle school and elementary school. They seem to be in high school, but you don't see them in elementary and middle school. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm gonna tell you, just the things that you got to go through to be a teacher. Like
Mm.
it's the the getting the voucher, the credential, and everything. I mean, that process is so crazy. Kevin will tell you, I was pulling my hair out. I was almost going to say, "Look, I just forget the job, okay?" But yeah, that was the hard part.
Yeah, I'm over here grinning because part of my position is to hire Black male teachers. So I do that all throughout the school year. And, it is, there are a lot of loopholes to jump through in order to actually become a teacher. Um, I think there's a lot of different aspects. I mean, we can look at, the economic situation that teachers don't get as paid as much. I've interviewed a lot of great men this year that were like, how much money am I going to be making? And once they found out, they're like, oh, that's not enough for me to come in.
Mm.
And so, education has really always been a passion filled. People that are there are passionate, are supposed to be passionate about teaching our children. So there's a lot of different barriers and things that keep Black men from coming into education. I believe we only make up like 0.1% in the whole United States as teachers. And
Mm.
so, Brother Delshawn and being a part of our program, part of what we do is how do we keep that retention? How do I keep Brother Delshawn satisfied so that he can come back and work with our young Black kings again? And so we have, not just a professional relationship, but even a personal relationship outside of school, and checking on each other and seeing what he needs and, advocating for him if he's not being supported at his school site, if he needs a little bit more, if he needs a field trip. So that's what our program does in the district, but it's a bigger, there's bigger things that keep Black males from being in education.
Great, thank
That
you. Okay.
background check. That background check
That
is never.
background check. Okay, yeah. Okay, here's another question. So, how do you keep the boys, how the young boys, young kings, how do you keep them encouraged in institutions where, I'm going to paraphrase, Roel, for microaggressions, right? We know we have microaggressions in the professional world, and we're adults, and it's difficult for us to handle. But how do we encourage our young Black boys when they're in institutions that is working against them or not being encouraging towards them? What can we give to our young boys to help them stay encouraged?
Teach them how to fight. Teach them how to fight. And I don't mean physically.
Okay,
I
I was
mean
like, Delshawn, I'm gonna cut your camera.
teach them how to fight with that pen. If there's something in your school you don't like, write the principal. Like,
Right.
there's steps and there's channels that you need to go through to navigate to get what you want. And I mean, it's been shown, like, because most of the students, some of the students when I first got there, they would kick chairs and throw garbage cans, and I just talked to them. I was like, brother, that's not the way to do it. You know what I'm saying? If you don't like something that your teacher is doing, you gotta go talk to the principal or whatever. There's channels, and I'll show you how to do this, So yeah.
Right, that's good. How to advocate for themselves. That's really important skill to learn how to, what to do when you've been wronged or feel like you're being wronged. How do you talk through your issues? Kevin, what do you say about, in answer to that question, how do you encourage our Black boys in these
Well, our
institutions?
motto in the program is to engage, encourage, and to empower. And as I said, as parents and community members, affirming them before they get to school, because I believe a lot of Black boys sometimes have identity crisis when they get to a place that wasn't really built to support them and who they are anyway. When you get to school, they're like, sit up straight, have your pencil out, be on time, do this and do that. And our boys and where we come from, they may not have gotten a lot of sleep. They may not have breakfast that morning. They may have had to run from some dogs on the way to school. And need us to look at them as the asset. But we have to continue to affirm our Black boys, to let them know what their purpose is in this world, that they do have a purpose, that they are important, and that's just our job, and that should be our job.
That's a great answer.
We shouldn't, and when I say that should be our job, it's not the school's job to affirm our kids. They should be educating them. They should be doing it, but it's our job first to do that as well. So I just want to say that.
Thank you. I'm glad you underscored that, underlined that, highlighted, circled. It's our job as parents, as the community, as the village to uplift our kids. All right, there's another question. Can you speak to the importance of mental health counseling for our boys, especially if they live in high trauma areas? Or have instability in their home? What's the importance of getting them counseling?
Very important. Very important. And I mean, I think they need to get counseling by Black people too. Because I mean, I see some of these school counselors, and I don't know. Their approach is not cool. I don't know. They're not doing it from the heart, for sure.
Right.
I think it's very important as well. And um, it's, mental health is so stigmatized within the Black community, but we have to begin to talk about it more, to promote it, to find our people and find those people to support mental health, all the way from elementary to high school. And I see it being a conversation now, particularly in the last year. I see, high school students in particular trying to find different ways to support their mental health besides self-medicating through different ways that they
Mm.
may, or self-sabotaging, when there's really when really they need to talk to someone about what's going on in their lives. So, mental health is just as important. And the fact that our program is to bring Black male teachers in front of Black boys to have that relationship. And sometimes we're the mental health counselors. For years, when I was a
Mm.
teacher, I was the mental health counselor. I was talking to boys about suicide, about what's going on, about losing their father, about being homeless, about taking care of a parent. So,
Mm.
that is our job to do that, but it's very important.
Yeah, and to your point, we know that in Alameda County and across the country, Black mental health providers are few and far between. Like there's just a lack of Black health professionals overall, doctors, nurses, mental health professionals. And so as a community, we have to encourage our boys and our girls to go into some of these professions and to kind of introduce them to the idea of being something other than the more common professions, because we need everybody, and particularly in mental health right now. That's one of our pillars on generational health. Our pillar is mental and emotional health, not just for you as parents, but also for our children. I read an alarming statistic today that said while white kids are still more likely to die from suicide, Black girls and Black boys are most often attempting suicide. Now, they may not be successful, but they are attempting suicide more often than white kids. So that should speak to us as parents and community members that we need to make sure that we encourage and embrace and love our young Black boys. So I'm going to give my guests the last final words to say about Black Boy Joy and any final thoughts or comments that you want to say. And I'll start with Delshawn. Final thoughts or comments?
Um, Please spread the word to your children that Black unity is very possible. And
Hmm.
the reason why I say that is because every time I'm talking to someone, another African American brother or sister, whoever, when I talk about Black unity, the first thing that they say is, "Oh, that ain't gonna never happen.
Hmm.
Oh, good luck with that." But it starts with us telling our children Black unity is possible.
I love that. Thank you. Kevin?
I just want to leave everybody with to, as I said, continue to affirm your young kings, with who you want them to be. Continue to promote and change the narrative that they are important, that they are needed, that they can be what they want to be, as long as it is in alignment with God. And like I said, I'm thinking about the sermon from Sunday, having a mindset ready for a miracle. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we think about that, talking with our children and finding out where their mind is and affirming them, hopefully in the positive mindset. So that's where I want to leave everybody. And I thank you for inviting us on your show.
I thank you both for being here. This is just the first conversation we're going to have about Black Boy Joy. We're going to do a series on our black boys, up to black men. So don't feel like you're gonna get left out, black men. Delshawn and Kevin, we're gonna have some conversations about black male joy for adults as well, right? So thank you so much for being on and coming on with Talking with Dr. Donna. If you had other questions, keep them in the chat. I can give them to Delshawn or Kevin and they can answer. But thank you both so much for being here tonight and for having this conversation. So good. So much information about how to encourage and love on our black boys. So thank you so much for being with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
For you out there, don't leave yet. We're going to talk about our food of the month. You know that we here on Talking with Dr. Donna are encouraging you to eat better this month. We are talking with our food of the month. We've had kale, we've had squash, we had cranberries, and now this month is apples. So hopefully you have been trying some new apples. I tried Envy apples, which I've never tried before, that are delicious, and that my new favorite apple. And then Juicy apples. I've always loved Fuji and red apples, so I am starting to, spread out my love for apples. So if you haven't tried a different apple this month, only a few days left in January to get in your apples for our food of the month. And then it's time for our next food. So once again, thank you so much for joining us on Talking with Dr. Donna. I hope that you learned something, got something positive about how to experience and help a young black boy, whether it's your child or in your community, to experience black boy joy. Like I said, we're going to do a series on this. This is not the first and the last conversation. This is not the last conversation. It is the first conversation, but not the last. And remember, every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you have an appointment with the doctor, so don't miss your appointments. Until I see you again next week, take care of yourself, be safe. God bless. If you have a question for Dr. Donna, please do leave it on my page and I will be happy to answer the question for you.